When I first opened the Somerton Man case, I thought I was about to read one more old mystery from the 1940s. Then I learned that in 1948, a well-dressed stranger was found on Somerton Beach with no identification, and suddenly I couldn't look away. What trapped me even harder was the clue that came later, a tiny hidden scrap of paper with the words Tamam Shud, meaning it is finished. Those words had been torn from the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, and the moment I found that detail, this stopped feeling like a case and started feeling like a message. Then the story pulled me in even deeper. The matching book turned up, and inside the back were strange indented letters and a telephone number. That was the moment I realized this mystery had two hooks at once. A nameless man, and a code that nobody could truly explain. The more I read, the stranger the man became. Witnesses described a quiet, well-dressed figure, but his clothes had labels removed, as if his identity had been cut away on purpose. That detail stayed with me, because it made the whole case feel less like a disappearance, and more like an erasure. Then came another door I could not open. The number in the book led police to a nurse named Jessie Thompson, who lived only hundreds of meters from where the man was found. She denied knowing him. But even now, that connection feels like one locked room in the middle of the whole mystery. And this is where the case became impossible for me to shake. The code led to Cold War spy theories, hidden identity theories, and endless speculation. But the meaning never gave itself up. Every clue looked important. Every clue felt close. And still the truth kept slipping just out of reach. Then, decades later, the case shifted again. In 2022, researchers using DNA and genetic genealogy said the Somerton Man was likely Carl or Charles Webb, an engineer from Melbourne. But the twist that hooked me all over again was this. Police said the identification still needed further DNA work and a coroner's confirmation. That is why this case stayed under my skin. Even after a likely name appeared, the most haunting parts refused to disappear. The beach, the book, the code, the silence. I realized I was no longer chasing a clever puzzle. I was staring at a human life that somehow slipped out of history and left only fragments behind. And maybe that is the reason audiences cannot stop watching this story. It is not just mysterious, it feels unfinished in a way that almost hurts. A man likely has a name now, yet the message still whispers. The code still resists, and the ending still refuses to close. So when I tell the Somerton Man story, I do not start with answers. I start with a stranger on a beach, a scrap of paper, and a code no one can read. Because some mysteries pull you in with fear, but this one pulls you in with something worse. The feeling that the truth was always close enough to touch, and still somehow remained out of reach.